So I don't know if this is playing the video, but if this isn't playing the video, we'll edit it. Can you hear me and everything, or do you see the
I
video?
I can still hear you. I can't see a video, but I can see you. I can see me, but I can't
All
see a
right.
third video.
We'll just add that later and in the post.
All right.
Okay. So I want to introduce this awesome MC. His name is Bones. He comes from, well, I've known him for a while, but I haven't really kept up with him as much as I should have. But we're just reconnecting now, and I come to find out he's still doing his music thing. So I want to introduce him to the world, to the show, showcase his work, and yeah, man. So that's anything you want to say to that?
No, brother. It's basically it's the music thing has been a part of my life since as far as I can remember growing up. As far as being captivated by music, it's always been something about. I don't know if it's learning about other people's experiences, culture, or just the fact that it's fucking cool, man. Music's always been a thing that's really attracted me, and then come around towards like let's say 10th grade, 11th grade, around that time in my life, I started getting fascinated with writing. Fast forward to the end of high school, I really started making like actual recordings on tapes and karaoke. 'Cause I don't know, like when people these days think about indie hip hop and making music, I don't know what means comes to mind first, but like for me, like all the means of recording that I use come to mind first, like the analog tape karaoke machines. So ever since those days, I've been producing. Like people use the phrase content creator, right? People who've been recording on karaoke's and machines and analog tapes, they've been creating content since before content creators was a term. So I've been making
Yes,
music
sir.
since
Yes,
then,
sir.
constantly trying to refine, constantly trying to find my reasons to stick with it. Because the truth is, like, after a while, like, you really do got to start asking yourself why you're in the game. So, like, just to piggyback on what you said about still doing my thing, the reason I find myself still doing my thing is because I still find a reason to do my thing. Like, I wouldn't, these days, I wouldn't be just hitting the studio and doing work in the studio just for the sake of getting it done. Like, I got to be real precise about my tactics. Otherwise, it feels like a big waste of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, as myself, I still make my music, and it,
Good for
it,
you, man.
it
Good for you.
it's my reason is mental stability. Honestly, like everything else that comes after that, whether people like my stuff, whether people buy my stuff, whether whatever, I feel like I had to. That was my escape. That was my. I mean, I was my background wasn't perfect. I had a lot of issues that went down, and I had no way of getting out. So it was writing, 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 and for me, how like it also was about like starting with tapes, and going forward from that point. So I understand that whole process as well. Um, like I remember, like when I first heard you, when I first met you, you had this, like, at least from my perspective, it seemed like you had like a little bit of a bone image. Like, did you flow fast? Do you flow fast? What's your
No,
no?
flowing fast was always difficult. Well, I mean, there's the thing about flowing fast. Like you can throw a lot of words together with like some words are kind of like cheat words. Like when people throw in a little bit of get, a little bit of gonna get. You know what? Those I feel like those are kind of like cheat words. And when I would
Mhm,
find myself trying to rhyme fast, it would just be a whole lot of bullshit, not about
mhm.
anything. So it's like I left that alone for a long time. Like only up until recently, like I would say 2016ish, I really started playing with fast rhymes, but not so much to imitate any one particular artist. But I mean, don't get it twisted. Like Bones set it off with that fast flow thing. Even if other people did it before them, they're the ones that took it to the new heights, and they're the ones
Yeah,
that really put the spotlight on that. But my
yeah,
reasons for playing with this seriously was just to see what more I could do. So like on Back to School, a mixtape. Back to School is mixtape volume 3 on a mixtape I did back in 2016. People can check that out on the website at darkknightrecords.com. It's a free mixtape. There's the third song called Dark Horseman. I started playing with fast flows just to dick around with it a little bit. So no, fast flows was not something I really played with a whole lot. Even if some of my early influences were artists like Bone and like Outkast and artists who like really had like a flickery fire to their flow, No, I wouldn't say it was a Bone based flow. I would say anything like I probably based my earlier raps more around Pox rhymes than Bones because Pox rhymes were more like personal. Bones rhymes were more like very abstract about nothing in particular. It was the way it came out that was captivating more so. you know.
Yeah, I mean, Pac at that time was hitting big. I don't know. I'm showing the people your website because you talked
I
about it.
got you, bro. Yeah.
You definitely want to check them out.
Yeah. So the website, go
But
ahead.
then yeah, like when oh, give me
Yeah,
one
brother, take your
second.
time.
Hold on. Let me just so it's not lagging so much. Let me get out of here
Well,
real
just so we're
quick.
filling the space, you mentioned the website. I just wanted to tell people real quick, like
Yeah.
if you go to the website, darknightrecords.com, that's DARKNIGHT records.com. It's a real fast tour through the catalog of work that I've done. In other words, like even the banner at the top of the image is like a look back at like 20 plus years of albums and projects that I've been putting out. The music store is basically there's a tab on the side. The music store takes you to the list of albums and projects that's happened around the years, and at the bottom it takes you to a media player where you can just hit play and just start hearing some of the more handpicked tracks that I think I would want people to hear first. So the website Dark Knight Records is also a hub to all the social media. So if people prefer engaging on social media like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, that website right there is a one-stop click to everything. So anybody who's interested in finding out more about the work, go to darknightrecords.com. And on that homepage, you'll find your way towards whatever way you like to engage with artists and media. I promise you.
Yeah, we're gonna put the links up after the show is finished. So everything from
Yeah,
your
thank you, man.
from
Thank you.
this to your Instagrams to your YouTubes, just so everybody has your links. But yeah, man, no, see, like that's why I like talking to you because you have experience, like 20 years. So, this brings me to a question where like in the 20 years that you've been doing music, like how has music changed in your eyes? And do you adapt to the change? Do you stay like back in your like old school ways, or do you like go into working with the youngsters now? Like how's your perspective on today's rap compared to like 20 years ago?
Those are really good questions, bro. Like to start with rap today and how music in general has changed. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because there's a lot more marketability in music these days. In other words, like somebody could just do a junk recording, and I don't mean no disrespect. I just mean like a low production cost recording on their phone, upload it to YouTube, and become more famous than the person putting in work at like the high price studio. It's that crazy. So the
Yep.
marketability is totally different. Whereas before, if you were trying to get into the game that way and like do it like monetize yourself and make a living off of it, you had to go balls deep into it, try to find a manager, try to find
Hmm.
like people don't understand like the business side of the music, like to commit 100%. Like people don't even have the slightest idea what that entails. They
No.
think it means like making a hit and getting big off of something, and then like the rest of it is a mess. It is a mess of reading stuff that's not interesting. It has very little to do with making music, and then you find
Hmm.
yourself as an artist like overwhelmed in the business side and the growth side, which is necessary. I'm not knocking it. I'm saying if you want to survive, you got those are
Yeah.
necessary parts. But these days, I think there's a lot less of that, like a monotonous kind of means to get famous. Whereas like you just really got to hit with the right audience and the right demographic from the power from the simple tool of your smartphone. So
Hmm.
in that sense, music has changed so much. Like the ability to go from 0 to 1,000, or like to be unknown to known, or to like there's just so much that can happen so fast with music. But as far as the music itself, I don't think it's changed that much. I think there's always been and there's always going to be artists that are true to heart that want to make the music that they want to hear regardless of what's popular. Like I feel like that's the main reason why I do rap, why I do music, is because like when I see that the kind of music that I want to hear isn't being put out like that, I can complain about it or I can make it and put it out myself. You know what I mean? So I choose B. I choose to make the kind of music that I feel like should be out there more. And if people like it and people want to buy it and support it, that's icing on the cake. But for me, like mission accomplished is when the project is done and it sounds the way I want it to sound. So I think that's never going away. I think music has stayed the same with in regards to artists staying true to themselves. I would say like it's a little bit skewed. Like it might seem like music today these days is like garbage compared to back in the day, but I would say to that like I think I think what we would call, even myself, what we would call garbage and stuff that's just like you can't even listen to it. I think that's louder than what's quality. I think quality doesn't get
Yeah,
enough shine. I think it's still
yeah,
there, you know?
yeah, and then that's yeah. I mean, with technology and time, you're right. It brings about so much good things, like and easier tools to work with, and people
Sure.
like
Hell yeah.
can be heard, throughout the world. But I feel like it also dilutes the talent base because now everybody's doing it. So you don't have to be, the best, writer, the best rhymer, the best whatever. You just have to have, I guess, willpower to do something.
You could be a high school teacher and do a rap about washing your hands and you get 2 million views, bro. Like that's how crazy not just the market is, but how crazy like the power of hip hop is. Like somebody could take a simple ordinary message, put it into rhyme, and how popular it is. I mean, think about Dr. Seuss, how popular Dr. Seuss
Yeah,
books are, how
yeah.
much in the 90s and early 2000s commercials adopted hip hop and raps and rap stars to sell their products. Like there's no argument. Like music, hip hop, as far as music, hip hop is the most sought after for marketing, hands down.
Yeah, it
Nothing, no
is.
music sells better than hip hop. I don't know why that is. I don't know why
and
that is.
and and to that point, not just here but internationally, like
Yes,
hip hop is known throughout the world, and most people would listen to hip hop, would be more apt to listen to hip hop in a commercial around the world than some easy listening 1980s, like
it's
like
weird. Like yeah, you get Eminem rapping in a Pepsi commercial or whatever the hell he did. It's a little bit more entertaining than getting. I mean, no disrespect to like Ray Charles, but Ray Charles has he has some really nice Pepsi commercials.
yes.
But as soon as Eminem started spitting bars over, I think it was Pepsi, it was
Mhm.
just like, oh my god, like because you can think about it, like a commercial spot is 15 to 30 to 60 seconds long. You can't say much in
Yeah.
country music and in singing in 30 seconds. That's one of the things
That's
that's
true.
always
That's true.
made hip hop and rap music stand out above any other genre. People can say it's not musical because they're not singing, they're not playing no instruments, but hip hop and rap music says so much more in a shorter amount of time than any music can, hands down. There's no debate in that, with words anyways. With the words, I mean, like you can interpret messages and be like, yeah, like Ode to Joy and certain classic pieces like that, like Mozart, they have meaning and you get emotional arousement from it. But like as far as literal meaning, somebody telling a story and saying something, hands down, you can say more with hip hop than with any other kind of music in a shorter amount of time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, and sorry, this was
Oh, you
choking.
good. You good. Yo, but I wanted to touch real quick on another question you asked. You asked like as far as my what I produce these days, am I like adapting with the times or
Yeah.
staying stuck in my ways? The answer is kind of twofold. It's actually yes to both. Like I think everybody, I don't know how it is so much for women, but like I know about being a man, and I know it's for men it's very very difficult to get out of our old habits, right? We stay stuck in our ways in a lot of ways, in and out of life, in and out of work, and in the studio as well. So like I find myself like constantly like catching myself like, no, you did that already. You're recycling an old formula, and like how can you make this and turn it into something different that's not, just a repeat of something you put out. So that's very challenging to do. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
it
I'm
is.
I'm right there with you, man, because we've been
Yeah,
doing it for such a long time that you're like, wait, I already did this. Like,
yeah,
you gotta get something new and adapt to today's
yeah.
time. It's so let me go back to the speaking internationally here, because I, you're Latin and I'm Latin,
Yeah, I was born in Cochabamba, bro.
yeah, so being from South America, because I'm Ecuadorian, so like, somos hermanos like that. But like, when you go back to Bolivia, or have you seen hip hop grow? Do you see like because it might, like, when I went back to Ecuador back in like 19 like I went there the first time, it was like I was like 16, 15, so it was like in the 90s, and I noticed that like I was listening to what was it like? I was listening to like Onyx and like
Oh
stuff like
wow.
Naughty by Nature, but they were
Yes.
listening to like KRS-One, and they were listening. It was like a
No
time,
shit.
yeah, it was like a time frame. And then when I went back, like again, like what was popular here was like Little John at the time. But when I went back, it was like they were playing like Cypress Hill, like Tequila Sunrise, like Nas, like the albums that came out around that time. So like, and hip hop in Ecuador has grown tremendously. I mean, and the beauty of it is that they kept the elements involved. So there's graffiti, there's b-boying, there's every aspect of it. It's
I
pretty
believe that.
big.
Oh
And
yeah.
like I've actually heard a lot of Bolivian like Quechua like rappers, like
Oh no
and
shit.
yeah. So that's why I asked, like, in your when you've gone back, what's your perspective on hip hop over there?
Bro, I'm gonna go ahead and call myself out right away. Like I haven't been back to Bolivia since
Oh,
2001. Like since I remember, like it was right after 9/11.
mm-hmm.
9/11 happened, and then the next month we went to Bolivia. And
Oh
at
snap.
at that time, I was barely doing like karaoke raps. But I will say, like, I've had a lot of support in Bolivia because of family that I have and connections through them. Obviously, friends of your family become, friends
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form. And we had this. I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Mauricio in Bolivia. This man, like when we were promoting music back in the day, he set up a freaking fan club for us, something on that level, and
Oh,
would promote the website. He when I would post something, he would share it. He would talk to people about it. He had our back, man, and that's the kind of love that I really appreciate, man. So like, I don't want him to think that that's gone unnoticed. Like I really appreciate that. So shout out Mauricio. I really appreciate what you did, and all my cousins, Oscarito and Sergio and Alberto and Gabriela, like all my cousins who showed love to the projects when I would put them out. They were my connection to the Bolivian hip hop scene. As far as like feedback, I didn't get a whole lot of feedback because not being there, I don't
yeah,
see what's going on there, and
yeah.
I struggle enough as it is to keep up with the stuff that's going on in the states. Not just
Yeah,
in hip hop, but in news. I'm raising
yeah.
kids, so I got to know what's going on in the communities and what they're doing in the schools. So Bolivian hip hop has not been on my radar, and I feel like I said, I'm roasting myself, I'm calling myself out on that. But what I can say is that I think all the fences are down as far as like where hip hop can and can't go.
Mm-hmm.
I think a record in Spanish can get hot in the States. That's been proven with stupid
Mm-hmm.
ass songs like Despacito
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
or artists
The
that I respect, like
gasolina,
right,
like
right. But
yeah,
then there's also like artists that I respect, like
yeah.
like I got a lot of love for artists like Shakira and Mark Anthony. They're like big names, but I think
Oh,
they're doing
forget
pretty
about it.
well.
Yeah,
Artists
yeah.
like Immortal Technique, artists like like, so
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of love for the fact that people put out their Spanish roots here, and it just blows up and it goes, and vice versa. I think a record in English in Bolivia has always
It
been,
always,
enjoyable. I
it
don't think
always is.
yeah, they've always been into the American culture. Like what's
Yeah, it always is.
they might not know
Mm-hmm.
in depth like the stories of, Cool Herc and,
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Hill Gang to KRS-One to the 90s to the crunk era, the No Limit days. Like they might not be able to have that type of discussion, but as far as being able to enjoy a record like you and I, Bolivia,
Yeah,
man, bro, they shown love to my stuff. I have no reason to think why they wouldn't be welcoming to all kinds of fire hip hop. No reason.
yeah. No, and it's a beautiful thing. It is a
Yeah,
beautiful thing because, like,
yeah.
but also as a Latin MC, because I don't have that many Latin MCs that come in here, and this is a good conversation to have as Latin
Hey,
MCs. Um, Let me ask you something. Like, what is like your perspective? I mean, you kind of covered it right now, but a little bit. Let's go a little bit deeper. Like, so you have like, you know, everything. Unfortunately, in hip hop in the states has always been like a regional thing. So you got like the East Coast, the West Coast, you got Texas, you got the South, all that junks, right? Like, do you like a lot of West Coast rappers that are Hispanic would only associate themselves as like Chicano rappers. And I feel like from here on the East Coast, a lot of Latin MCs that are Latin, yeah, they'll spit Spanish and stuff like that, but like they don't associate themselves, they just consider themselves MCs. Like it is like not a rivalness, but there is a difference between like New York and West Coast like Latin MCs. Like, so I was gonna ask you like you what like because let's take Kid Frost and Cypress Hill. Let's take the
Okay,
Beatnuts and Big Pun, right? So Kid Frost was one of the first Latin MCs in the game, and Cypress and Kid Frost kept it like that West Coast sound, like that Chicano
absolutely.
lowrider sound, right? And Cypress, they became one of the biggest Latin MCs in the West Coast, but
Absolutely.
they didn't stick with the Chicano thing. They did it wasn't even like when you
They were a
listen to
little,
Cypress.
yeah, that's true. They weren't what you might call a Chicano style. They were pretty wild. They were party rappers
Even that, it's
in
like
a way.
they weren't their beats weren't even like West Coast at the time either.
Right,
Like
right.
it was like their own thing, right?
Yeah,
And then you have like here on the West Coast or East Coast, you have Big Pun and like the Beatnuts. Now the Beatnuts were one of like the founding guys in the Latin community here on the East Coast. Not only because as MCs, but they rocked with the Zulu Nation, and they rocked with and they were production before actually becoming rappers. So they made a lot of beats, and they were known with in the internet in the hip hop community where it comes from Latin MCs. But then you get Big Pun, and Big Pun blows up everywhere, right? And everybody knows Big Pun. So like, I guess my question is like, what's your perspective on the two worlds of the Latin MCs?
um, I think it's no different than understanding that. Like, I think you and I were talking the other day about different styles of hip hop and what people would say, this is hip hop, this is not hip hop. I think it's all branches of the same tree. I think with Latin rap, with Latino rappers or people or people that come from Spanish speaking backgrounds and cultures who end up dabbling into the MCing game and putting out records, I think you're right. Generally, they tend to go one of two ways. They tend to go with like the general. I'm just doing it for the MC, and I just happen to speak Spanish. And sometimes you'll hear Spanish bars in my flows, but I'm not like marketing myself that way as a Chicano rapper or something like that. And then there's the other way that's like I'm gonna lean heavily towards this culture, towards my my roots, and most of my records are gonna reflect that either through the imagery, through the flags, through the phrase, and through the song titles and stuff like that. And fun fact, actually, back here in the studio, I keep a wall of CDs that have been, essential to me in one way or another. They're not my favorite CDs, they're not my greatest hits, but one of those CDs down there is Kid Frost, Smile Now, Die Later. Bullshit you not. That's one of the CDs that's on
That's
the
a
wall right there.
that's a great
Yeah.
song, man. That's
So
a great record.
absolutely, it's a great record. In case anybody hasn't heard it, Kid Frost's "Smile Now, Die Later." I think that was like 1993 or 92, something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, like I think as long as people know what they're trying to do, see, and not just what they're trying to do, but why they're trying to do it. Like I was saying earlier, like me constantly trying to find my reasons for even being in the studio and putting out a project. And it not being just for the sake of doing it, like there being some a little bit deeper meaning behind it. As long as a Chicano rapper or a Spanish speaking person or dude or female is putting out records and they're talking about stuff that they know or that really interests them or they really care about and they really want to hear records like that more and more, I think you can't go wrong. No matter what kind of likes, what kind of sales you get, if you're a Chicano rapper or any type of rapper, as long as what you're doing makes you feel like you're covering what means most to you. Fuck what anybody say. Like you're not representing for the Latin community, or you're not representing enough for hip hop, because people are gonna hate on you no matter what you put out.
Yeah.
Honestly, you saw what happened to Lin Manuel when he put out In the Heights, right? That movie.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were they were bitching at him because it didn't have enough representation. It wasn't Latino enough. It didn't represent enough dark skin Latinos. And it's just like, you know what? There's so much that I feel like he got right about that movie, and still people are like finding ways to bitch at it. So like if you focus on what people are looking for and like what style you should be, you're gonna miss out on kind of artist you actually are and the kind of output you could be putting out. So like fuck all that.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It was like the same thing with like the East and West Coast back in the day. It was like fuck all that,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
you know. Um, but it's interesting because growing up here, like okay, if I had come from Latin America, for instance, like today, and I was decided I was gonna be a rapper and so on and so forth. Like I was gonna get into the game today and do my thing. But that's one thing. But it's interesting to talk to somebody that's grown up with hip hop at the same time the Latin hip hop is growing up as well, and having that perspective. Because, like I said, a lot of people, when it comes to Latin hip hop, it's just very not well known. Like a lot of people, for instance, like AZ is also, Dominican. Just people don't know these things.
Noriega and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So and that also kind of gets me, because it's like, yeah, when reggaeton came out, Noriega was like, yeah, I'm Latin now. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I guess, but like, stick with Latin if you're gonna do
Well,
the
didn't
thing. Like,
didn't Bad Bunny not really? Didn't he used to do raps? And this latest record he put out was less of a rap record. Isn't that what? That's what I heard. I don't know anything about this dude, but
I don't know. That's what I heard as well. You know what I mean? Like, I
yeah,
heard that.
and like internet, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard is that Bad Bunny before this latest project he put out that's hitting hard, before this one, he was mostly a Chicano rapper. Like he put out mostly like rap style albums, and now that he put out this different one that's more in touch with like a different vibe, he's like really hitting hard. I don't know if that's true. That's what I've heard,
But
but
that what I do know is true. I don't know about the Bad Bunny, but I do know about uh, the Gasolina guy. What's the guy?
Daddy Yankee,
Daddy Yankee.
yeah.
Like, about his past. Like, he was, straight up New York rapper, like Tim's and everything. Like, and then he starts doing reggaeton, right? So like, if you listen to his past, you're like, yeah, yo, he goes hard, and it's like really tight flows and bars. I
I didn't
mean,
know
but
that.
yeah, but then you go into reggaeton, and you're like, he becomes the most famous guy in reggaeton, and everybody knows him as reggaetonero. But like, yeah, if you listen to his old stuff, you're like, damn, like, straight up, like from the streets, gutter, New York. I was like, I guess he's actually old. You don't think he's that old, but he's old. He's like around like almost like 45, 50. You know what I mean? So like, but yeah,
I think
but
guys like that are referred to as people from the late 1900s. That's how they refer to us now, as people from the late
yeah, man,
1900s. That's
yeah.
I think that's fire. But yeah, maybe back then hip hop needed a reggaeton face. Maybe back then hip hop needed some Spanish representation. And I'm not saying I enjoyed Daddy Yankee's music, because I used to shit on him hard. Like I got, I tend to be a little bit more
Same here.
open minded about, artists that I used to shit on hard back in the day. But I suspect that back in the day, maybe hip hop needed a twist, because that was back in the time. It was close to the time, like on the tail end or the spike, whatever you want to call it, of the Latin explosion with Mark
Yeah,
Anthony's
yeah,
first English album. J Lo's On the Six, Ricky Martin did La Vida Loca, all that shit. That shit started to take off, right? And then around that time, you have Daddy Yankee blowing up, and that maybe in that time, maybe hip hop needed some type of Latin representation, and there was the reggaeton sound that has a lot of hip hop vibe to it, but no name. People need a name, like somebody they can get behind. And Daddy Yankee, I think he filled that market. I think he filled that need, that vibe, and that to me, I suspect that's the reason why he blew up, because there was there was nobody that was the name in reggaeton and hip hop at that
no,
time until
no,
he kind of filled that slot. And now it's like debatable. Like now there's like, it's a little bit contentious and there's more reggaeton type rappers. But I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. He definitely, again, not praising or dissing his music, for better or worse, he definitely tapped into that market at the right time in the right way, and that man blew up big time. Him and Pitbull, I think. Him and Pitbull.
yeah,
They
both of
did
them.
they did something that hip hop, I think, a branch of hip hop that needed some TLC, man, some pruning, some love, some water, and some flower, and they took care of that Latin hip hop. And like I said, right or wrong, maybe it's just for party and bullshit, but the Latin community, the Latin environment felt like they were a
Yeah,
part of hip hop like never before. You know,
I agree with that, and it's just at the same time, it's just interesting because, like, yeah, we come from like what? When did you move to the United States?
I was 3 years old, brother. I came here in 1984, May
Huh.
1984. I was a little one.
I came here at 3, and I came in like 85. So yeah, but like, growing up from that young age to like now, and you would see the Puerto Ricans in New York and all that stuff getting down. So like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Latin hip hop is very complex, because what a lot of people don't understand is that you can be from Argentina, for instance, and
Mhm.
be like, look like you're white, You can be from Puerto Rico and look like you're black, and you can be like from South America, like Ecuador, Andean like region, and look like us.
Yeah.
So there is not that one. You know what I mean? Like that's okay.
Yeah.
That's Latin hip hop. It would be like more like that's Ecuadorian, Bolivia, all this and all that. So yeah, no, and of course, I think I already know, but let me ask you this: what would you say is your favorite era of hip hop and why?
Oh man. I have two answers for that. As a fan, my favorite era of hip hop is probably 90s. Obviously, and it's not just my bias, and it's not just when I grew up. But honestly, man, songs like you remember the movie The Show, that movie documentary
Yeah.
that came out, like
Yep.
when like that's the kind of stuff that could go mainstream and be released in theaters. And singles like Method Man and Redman's How High, songs like what kind of songs would get played on the radio, like Lost Boys, Renee.
Lost Boys.
That
Yeah,
was
Renee.
a radio hit. The Roots,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with
man.
Erica Badu, You Got Me. Like
Yeah.
songs
Yeah.
like that were on the radio, like Tupac's um
Shook
off
even.
of Strictly, Tupac's Holler If You Hear Me. Remember that video?
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
single and a video. That song was raw as hell, had no profanity, no curse words. So like that era of hip hop to me is my favorite as a fan, because like anything could be a single. It didn't have to check all these boxes. It didn't have to have the hook, have this,
Mm-hmm.
have the repetition, have the latest artist featured on your song at the end. Like it didn't have that. But as a hip hop artist, as a writer, as a creator, my favorite era of hip hop has got to be like Pro Tools and post Pro Tools, where like the power is of making your own music is more so in the hands of the person and the artist, as opposed to like you got to seek out a manager or a label or a record deal to be able to even put out a project or pay for studio time, because studio time is no joke.
Yeah.
So as a creator, my favorite time in hip hop is when the power got in the hands of the artist. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. So do you produce your own music? Like, do you make your own beats, or do you have somebody else making beats, or you the
I
MC? Like,
Both. I put out a project. I put out a double CD style album called Meet My Beat, and that's a little bit of play on words, little joke there. Meet My Beat, and the subtitle is One Man's Long Dark Shadow of a Best Of, and that's kind of a play on the title of my three albums. My first album from 2005 is called One Man Army. I released that album under the name Devious, because that Devious is the name that I used back when my buddy Randolph was alive. The second album I put out in 2012 was Long Dark Night, and I put that one out as Bonez, just taking on like a new name after like leaving DVS back with Randolph. And then the third album that I put out solo in 2020 was called Shadow of a Doubt. So you got One Man Army, Long Dark Night, and Shadow of a Doubt. And then the compilation instrumental album that I put out called Meet My Beat is a collection of instrumentals that never been released before, never been put out there as instrumental versions on this one like collector set from those three albums. So that hence the title, Meet My Beat.
okay.
One man's long dark shadow of a best of, like, because it's not a best
Mm,
of, it's not a greatest hits, but it kind of in a way is. So yeah,
I get that.
on that record you hear what I got to produce myself. Like I mean, some of like those are some of my favorite tracks that I did myself on my own with little to no help, except for my man Josh playing guitar on several of my tracks, particularly on the album Long Dark Night. He hit up like just about every song except the intro song Persistence with guitar tracks. So shout out to Josh. He actually has a YouTube channel that y'all should check out. He's the dynamic Josh Taylor. This man does live streams. He does not just like guitar and tracks, but this man can like, he's one of those type of dudes that could it be in a quiet room, right? He'll do the live stream where he starts hitting his drum machine. He'll start the loop. He'll get it going. He'll fill it with the guitar, and he'll just
Yeah.
make a song on the spot. So homie is fire. So with
Yeah.
the exception of my man's help, I had like all the beats done myself on that project. But the albums themselves do feature beats that, for example, my man the GGT, who I met at the H Street Variety Show, he did a couple tracks for me. He provided the beat for a song I did, a single that I did called "The Choice Is Ours." He provided a track for me that I used on this last album on Shadow of a Doubt, track number 3 called Game of Bones. So I like working with other producers, but the truth is, brother, like if I could pick my favorite ones are the ones that I had mostly a hand on myself, hands on beat and rhymes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've done many stuff with many people, but I've recently started to do my own stuff as well.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, so it is different. It is different because you you don't even know what you do until you do it, and then it's there, and you're like, okay, now how can I go about this, as opposed to somebody else doing something that you can get on, but like you have to like get into their feel, you have to get into their like, because they made the beat and all that stuff. So it's like sometimes like my problem would be like, oh, I want it to sound like this, but the people would be like, nah, it's like that, and that's fine, but in my head I'm like, oh, like if it sounded instead of you know what I mean,
Right.
like
Yeah,
but
I think that's normal, right? As musicians, we hear how we would tweak it differently for ourselves, right? If I would have had done this, I would have did this differently, right? We do that. And I'm hearing the voice of my buddy Miskit in my head. And I got to say something real quick. While I don't think like, how some people say like a rapper should be able to freestyle, or a rapper should be able to this and that. Like, I don't necessarily think an MC should be able to do their own beats. I think it's a plus. Like I was able to do my own beats, my own tracks, my own albums. I don't think that's necessary that an MC and a rapper and a rap musician be able to do that. I think it helps. But while I have like a high level of respect for people who write and do their own music, I would say probably, and this is where the voice of my buddy's coming in, I would say probably it's a better idea to let somebody else handle the beat making over the writer. And I'll say this because if you have proper communication with your producers, you can talk to them about what kind of sound you're looking for, or they might come up with something you wouldn't have come up with. Like, you're thinking of this vibe, like, because I do this too. I'm like, I want the beat to sound like this. I want the beat to go like that. It has to hit this smooth. It has to make me feel this certain type of way. And then I hear this beat that, like, for example, my buddy Josh does, or the GGT does, or my homie Mustafa does, and it just hits this different vibe that I would not have even tapped into. And I'm like, oh man. And then I feel like Mega Man. I feel like I'm absorbing a new power, and I'm just like, all right, now I'm feeling something that I wasn't feeling before. I got to go to work on this. So I think overall, I would say it's better to leave the beats to somebody whose specialty is that. You know what I mean? I think that would be smarter. But MCs, man, it wouldn't hurt you to learn how to make some tracks. God damn it, for real. It would.
Yeah, no,
learn how to play a fucking drum machine or something, man.
Yeah, like it's interesting because like when I'm gonna this will probably be the last question because we gotta get to your videos, but like, okay, what's your favorite part of the process? Like, from putting it down on paper to putting it on streaming, what is the part that really, and what's the part that you dislike the most?
The part that I like from the most is playing it for people and seeing their reactions, like playing songs for my wife and watching her tear up, playing songs for my best friends and watching their reactions to it, because they get it on a very personal level. They don't just get the music side. So that's my favorite part of the creation process. But what was the second part about? Oh, least favorite. Yeah, least favorite part. Ooh. The waste of time thing that we were getting back to, because like at the end of the day, writing, before you even get to writing, thinking about the project, thinking about as soon as an idea hits you and you start to be possessed by this vibe, by this feeling, like, I got to get to writing on this, it starts to take up the space in your mind that could otherwise be dedicated to sleep, to spending time with friends and family, to reading that book that you've been putting off, to hitting the treadmill, or getting some exercise, or putting in a little extra time, overtime at work, and making that bread. It starts to take over you, and it begins to take up time in your head. You start to write, you start to rewrite, you start to edit, you do your first recording, you do your second recordings. Sometimes you scrap projects altogether. Sometimes you scrap lines. Sometimes you have to write at the most inconvenient time, and you forget lines. Like the entire process, the amount of time that it takes for then it to be recorded, finished, and it just sounds like shit. And it's just like, I put in so much time and effort, and this is just not going anywhere, or it's not going the way I want. That's my least favorite part, because it makes me And this is something I'll say to anybody who's pursuing something that they have like kind of a love-hate relationship for. It makes me want to quit this shit. It makes me want to just say, fuck this. I am done. Like no more writing, no more recording, no more giving any time to this shit. I was reading in a book called The Art of Empowering Children by John Graybiel. It's a very little known book, but you can still find it on Amazon. It's The Art of Empowering Young People, or The Art of Empowering Children by John Graybiel. And in it he's talking to a student of his. He's a martial arts instructor. He's talking to a student of his when he's having a meeting with the parent. And the parent's talking about the kid wants to quit, and the teacher's response to it is good. I'm glad to hear that. Nobody understands why. And he expresses it again. I have the book on my shelf over there. I'm not going to grab it right now, but he begins to explain that anything that is really meaningful and worth pursuing, at some point you're going to want to quit this shit. Like whether you want to pursue culinary school or acting or law, or you want to follow in your parents' footsteps and take on a family business, whatever you're doing that really gives you joy, or like people like your best friends, like who pisses you off more than your best friends, who irks parents more than their kids, like husbands and wives that like grow old happily together, they go at it. So like the stuff that you're really most passionate about will drive you to the point that you want to quit. And that's my least favorite part about the process, is that it cuts so fucking deep, in that you just did all this for nothing. Will play all night while I'm trying to sleep. So that's my least favorite part, is the torture that I feel when it's just like you've just wasted a shitload of time, and it puts all that doubt in your head. But no, like eventually it becomes that process. Eventually it becomes my favorite part, where like, nah, I overcame that shit. I finished as I said I was going to do it. I said I was going to put out a project. I did it. It sounds the way I wanted it, and now I get to play it for the people that I most, I want most to hear it. So.
That's it has to be one of them. Yeah, that's a deep answer there, man. Because I was just gonna say recording.
Like, oh my god. Yeah. Like getting levels, that's hard too. Like, yeah, not saturating your shit. Yeah. No, but for real, like, I mean, isn't it crazy how like the stuff that you really love the most will push your buttons more than anything, and it just makes you question everything. So yeah, like anybody who's pursuing something, like if it's driving you to the point of wanting to quit, like you're afraid of going to the gym and losing those last few pounds because you're not seeing the results right away, or you're putting down this passion of yours or something that you're trying to do, like because you feel like it's just time to quit. Like it might not necessarily be time to quit. It might just be time to recognize that in your journey of trying to do what you're trying to do and getting to where you need to get to, you had to reach a stage where you wanted to quit. And part of your story is how you overcame it, So don't give up, people.
No, those are some wise words for reals. Like, and we OGs, man. We've been doing it for such a long time. So
that's from the
proof.
Late 1900s, man.
Yeah, right. That's proof to your words, man. Like for reals. Like we haven't quit, and we've been to those points, man. I've sweat. I've spent the night at the studio on the floor. I've bled like I just. But you know what? At the end of the day, I look at my catalog and I'm like, boom, I feel proud, I feel happy. So it's like, yeah, I know what you mean. It is. People don't realize. I mean, if you take it seriously, but whatever you take seriously, it's going to be this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got to mean something to you. Because if you're just bullshitting, if you're doing it for somebody else, or you're doing it for the likes, or you're doing it for the clout, it's gonna fall. It's gonna fall apart on more levels than just like breaking your heart. Because
you know it.
There's no heart behind that.
You know it. All right, so guys, I'm gonna share his work here, and we're gonna talk a little bit afterwards about the his process on the work, and just giving you guys a heads up if you guys see me pause for a second here. Okay. All right, so we're gonna play When You Cross. I also wanted to talk to you about this song afterwards.
Fire away.
I really dig this song. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Just the play here.
This is the Joker song.
Yes, indeed. That's why I want to talk, because I dig this. All right. Sorry guys, how this works.
The only difference between
a little bit thing.
and a thief.
All right. Can you hear it?
I can hear. I hear the audio.
You hear the audio?
I heard it when it was
That's
playing.
fine.
It's buffering now.
All right.
But I did. It was coming through when you hit play.
Yeah. Get back to it real quick.
This is what I was talking about. This is the side of hip hop that's difficult. The technical side, you know.
Okay.
It's all good. You know, while we wait, I can tell people a little bit about the song.
All right, I think we're good now.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we're good.
Okay.
You can hear the audio, right?
The only difference between a preacher and a thief is the environment they're reared in. Doesn't have a background in 80s.
This city been falling apart. Lit trash now in like 8 days, and there's another business going under. I'm more, but I'm still mug. Yeah, that means I'm standing up for myself. I get jumped by these teens. I'm on 7 medications and still feel like giving up, and only children care. Look at these million stares. I gotta trudge to get home while millions stare. Wish I was living Thomas Wayne, he's a billionaire. And I don't feel like down on my luck and defenseless. My co-worker Randall said he'd take this gun for protection, knowing damn well my mama don't want me this weapon. All I wanna do is tell some jokes at the club for but then I took the gun to work and I got fired for that. I was on the subway and I finally snapped with one hand on the strap. How about another mentally ill loner whose pot spilled over while a broken and divided city gives him a chill shoulder. One hand on the strap. How about another joke? What do you get when you cross mentally unwell payaso from hell who's risen a match to burn his city to ashes? And it just keeps getting better. Now my mom is saying that I'm the firstborn bastard son of Thomas Wayne. Could it be I'm a bastard? Go to find some answers and nope, turns out that I'm adopted and that's worse. But only cause it means my mama's batshit crazy. I was abused my whole life and maybe that's what made me just say fuck it Penny, I'ma be a happy orphan trying to celebrate and her some knocking at the door. Then I make a big mess and thank Gary for being nice. And the whole world's gonna see me in a chair on TV tonight. So I gotta look my best, rocking a vest and slick hair. My freak flag flying boogie down these shit stairs. One last time before I aim and squeeze, I get hit by a car while trying to evade police. Now here's my big moment. I meet my idol today. I'm like a kid in a carnival with a smile on his face. And happy is dead. Can you tell him Joke is my name? They can even write it on the wall after I blow out some brains. Like a born day candle on what might be my last night. So good night, and I'll always remember, that's like with one hand on the strap. How about another joke? What do you get when you cross mentally ill loner whose pot spilled over while a broken and divided city gives them a chill shoulder? One hand on the strap. How about another joke? What do you get when you cross mentally unwell payaso from hell who's risen a match to burn the city to ashes? Last thing I remember is I was laughing in handcuffs. The city was burning and clowns were having some damn fun, and I felt like for the first time that they finally noticed me. That's what I would pray for every night as I go to sleep. Can't tell if this is real or a dream. Laying on top of a car crash and breathing in steam. I see an army of clowns and hear them tell me to rise up. How long I've been asleep and sweaty with my eyes shut. A lot of pain, but I finally rise to my feet. Chaos, applause, and all this for me. Bright lights and the stage like I've sold this. Maybe now you know the story of how this joke arises. Or maybe you don't, who knows? Cause I'm unreliable. I'ma show how much I love you. And I thank you all for coming out. Now that these cuffs taking off me, I'ma do this forever. This party's just getting started. One hand on the strap. How about another joke? What do you get when you cross mentally ill loner who's spilled over while the broken divided city gives him a chill shoulder? One hand on the strap. How about another joke? What do you get when you cross mentally unwell payaso from hell who's risen a match to burn the city to ashes?
Okay, so let me
Yes,
do
yes.
this real quick. Okay, so tell me about this song here, man. I mean, look, to be honest, I saw. Well, I love Batman and I love the Joker. So when I heard what you wrote, the lyrics to the song, I was like, "Damn, son!" So like, yeah, tell me the pro. What was this song about? How'd it go down?
Well, art kind of piggybacks off of other art, right? Everybody or experience, right? Art piggybacks off of experience, and experience generates art. So like, I heard this term over the last few years called hyperrealism, where like fiction that imitates real life is actually in a sense more real because it's that situation heightened. And I think that's kind of what the Joker story is like. It's like if people who comic geeks who know, I'm a little bit of a geek on in some ways, but like the old story called The Killing Joke
Yes, sir.
kind of tells of a Joker story where they look at his life before he became the Joker, where he's like a struggling comedian. And I'm not going to say a whole lot about that. People can look into it, but this movie kind of did a different take on an origin story, but also gave it a twist of, mental health stuff, trauma, child abuse, failed city. Like, so it was so many social issues tied into a comic book story. And with that kind of stuff, like there's a million ways that could go wrong, but dog, they got this movie so right. And it was like, I mean, like not because it wasn't good because it was up for like 11 Oscars. It was good just because it was good. So after seeing that movie, I was like, man, like if this movie had me on the soundtrack, what would that sound like? And that's pretty much it. That was the entire thought
Oh,
process.
okay.
It's if I was on this soundtrack doing a song for this movie, what would it sound like? So obviously, like you have to start working after the movie comes out because you're not behind the scenes. You don't get a copy of the script. So I
Yeah.
saw the movie, processed it for a while, and started writing. And I knew what I wanted. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted the beginning, middle, and end to be because I knew that it had to fit long. I knew I wanted to tell the story of the movie. So in that sense, I knew what I wanted it to be. So when that came to be, I was like, I got to make this Joker soundtrack type song. I was like, I'm going to tell the story in 3 verses and put a spin on the hook. And then after it started going well, I was like, this could be a video. And I'm like, I'm not, I don't take any kind of credit as being like this hotshot video, creator or anything like that. But I took scenes from the movie that fit the lyrics in a way that doesn't spoil too much. Like if you watch the video, you get a lot of spoilers, you do, but like there's a lot of stuff that I intentionally did not show in the video for people not to be spoiled by it. So like on the off chance that somebody's
Mm.
first introduction to this whole Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie is my song, they still haven't had the details spoiled to it. You know what I mean? Wishful thinking, but that's kind of one of the things, the criteria for the song. It was like you can't spoil things like blatantly. You can't like right on the nose spoil things in the song or the video. So it was kind of a
No,
challenge.
and that's
That's
what
the
I
challenge.
noticed. That's what I
Yeah.
noticed with your lyrics, like, because for a second I was like, wait, is he talking about him? Like, he's talking about joke because it's going, but no, so yeah, it's not like, oh, okay, directly that's everything, word for word what's going on and spoiling anything.
Yes.
No, like it could be taken two different ways.
Right.
I dug that, man. I dug that, and
Thank you.
I know, thank you, because I love Batman and I love the Joker. Like that has to be one of my
Some
favorite
good
songs
stories. Yeah.
ever. Like, no, good stuff, man.
Oh,
Good
thanks,
stuff.
bro. Really.
Yeah, no, and then I definitely wanna play your other two, and like in all honesty, like these three songs that you're sharing with the public here, like are amazing. I love the
Thanks,
Joker.
bro.
I love the Batman thing. The next one I'm gonna play is so real. I'm just like, damn, I feel it. You know what I mean? I feel it. It's to the moon and back.
To
Oh,
the moon and back.
yeah. So let
Yes,
me let
sir.
me let me do this right quick.
Yeah. Fun fact: one of these certificates up here is an award for the moon for to the moon and back.
Really?
Yeah, from the Songwriters Association of Washington.
Wow. I mean, there you go. There you go. That's why,
Very
I
proud.
say
I'm
what
very
I
proud of
said.
that. Very proud of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm. All right, here we go.
And this is a song from the third album, Shadow of a Doubt.
Yeah, check him out for real, people.
One time for all the fathers and mothers carrying on. One time for all the sisters and brothers that make us strong. And one time for lost loved ones, a toast to the dead. Wish you could have been here last Christmas, we'd have broken some bread. One time for husbands and wives that keep it walk. One time for all the cousins and friends we don't see enough. And one time for the seeds to whom we pass the baton. The world is yours, but I hope I'm not forgotten after I'm gone. Dear mom and dad, it's your baby boy, and you might never understand this crazy noise, but I've never known it without a family, and I just want to say thank you for having me. And it's not the most complex bar I've ever spit, just happy to have learned from y'all to never quit. You weather storms, that's a metaphor. You survive, took stronger and better forms. Family get-togethers, I was a little dude when y'all danced quick, keep us in the living room. Remember Saturday mornings at the swimming pool? I really miss some days before middle school. I never worried about food or having clothes on my back, knew it was just your job, but I had it good, never felt alone as a kid. I didn't have everything, but had a bro and a sis. Thick and thin, all the bickering, every argument spent not listening. I always got your back, I know you feel the same. It was hard going apart and things need to change. It was inevitable that we go our separate ways. I still think about the four of y'all every day. My childhood was all that in a bag of chips you cooked for me. I had books to read, a whole suitcase. My little Miss Lunch robot that could walk and glow. I just want my bro to know without his lead and protection, the world would have devoured me. And to my baby sister, I always crazy miss your road trips and playlists with a flipping greatest. And everybody say it's the best, but just know how one time all the fathers and mothers carrying on. One time for all the sisters and brothers that make us strong. And one toast to the dead. Wish you could have get some bread. One time for all the husbands and wives that keep. One time for all the cousins and enough. And one time these to whom we pass the baton. Is yours, but I hope I'm not forgotten after I'm gone. Dear wife, it's the man you wed. Look at me struggling to find things I haven't said. I knew that you were the one before this tattooed ring. Every time you smile, the feeling that you bring. Cause with more than words, you say you always love me. This impulsive dummy that you dubbed the hubby, who sometimes at his best, but it's always something. And for better or for worse, when I'm falling, crumbling, you're my guardian angel, the glue that holds me together. When I break, I love you and only you. I wrote a song for you on your 24, and here's a little something else. I got plenty more. Ways to tell you that there's nowhere else I wanna be than your company, the way you loving me. How do I thank you for making this life for me so much better than I ever had a right to be? Our first date, I was broken inside and out, and I was so on the go, never lying down. I stayed grinding out these mixtapes to say things I didn't want to tell nobody face to face until you came along when there was no way in. I told you all my secrets till 4 a.m. Reading books on the metro, heading to the museum. Good to my godsons every time that you see him. No surprise to me, you're such a good mom to a son and daughter. Those lucky monsters in the case we forgot to say the words. Then the three of us agree you're our favorite person. A stress happy, a jealous fool, worrying about things you'd never do. I'm so grateful for everything you get me through. The best choice I ever made, that's forever you. One time for all the fathers and mothers carrying on. One time for all the sisters and brothers that make us strong. And one time for lost loved ones, a toast to the wish you could have been here last Christmas, we'd have broken some bread. One time for all the husbands and wives that keep it buck. One time for all the cousins and friends we don't see enough. And one time for the seeds to whom we pass the baton. The world is yours, but I hope I'm not forgotten after I'm gone. And lastly, I don't know what I do, but I'm a little monkey, things 1 and 2, playing in your room while daddy does the stew. Music makes me happy, but not as much as you, my dear pretty girl, my dear handsome boy. I remember being young and having toys, and I was sheltered from playground and video games. So much is different, very little the same, but what'll never change is your mom and I being in your corners for all our lives. See, I was 28 when I became a parent, got myself a new job. I'll be taking care of these combinations of love and marriage that brought your mom and I together and made us your parents. And trying to express what I feel for y'all, there's not enough time, enough beats and bars, there's too much to say in just 32. Besides, it isn't really something that words can do, but you know your daddy, so stubborn he'll try. About to go for the win like W.I. and do my best like Tony Horton. Say I can't wait to finish so we both can go and play make believe while we making tea, while we saving the animals and saving trees. You were both so good to our puppy, and it's why he loved y'all even more than he loved me. A good dog, yes, that he was. And it's always time for a family hug. You guys make me feel like I'm crazy strong, and we take care of you until the day we're gone. You guys make me feel like I'm the coolest dad. Man, I love my fam to the moon and back. So for all the fathers and mothers carrying on. One time for all the sisters and brothers, make us strong. And one time for lost loved ones, a toast to the dead. Wish you could have been here last Christmas, we'd have broken some bread. One time for all the husbands and wives that keep it buck. One time for all the cousins and friends we don't see enough. And one time for the seeds to whom we pass the baton. The world is yours, but I hope I'm not forgotten after I'm gone.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this was, like I said, man, yeah, you got skills, man, and this hits. Surprised you.
Thank you.
I didn't even know that. How'd that come about? Like, how'd you end up getting that? Like, I've never even. How'd you get involved with that writer's stuff?
Well,
and what was even before that? What, like, tell me your thing, your process on this. Like, how?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did this come from?
Absolutely. The track itself is one of the tracks that I actually did myself. So I did the music on that one, with the exception of the guitar tracks. The acoustic guitar that people had at the beginning of the track and during the hook, and the electric guitar track added at the end. That's my man Josh. Like I said, the dynamic Josh Taylor on YouTube. Look him up. He's got nothing but, like, he's got skills on every level as a musician. He can play the drums, guitar, he plays all these different instruments. But he provided the tracks, the guitar tracks, everything else I did myself. That beat, that track, this is a fun little fact here. That was actually one of the tracks that was almost coming out on Long Dark Night. So I had that track since like 2012 and before. So that's an old beat. And remember how I was talking about, like, my least favorite part being, as far as the process going, the part that makes you want to quit. Like, something sitting on the shelf for so long makes you feel like, man, like, have I given up on this? Am I just making excuses for not going back to it and not doing the work, or is it just not time? And sometimes it's just not time for a project to come out, because I would write stuff to this track and none of it would be, it was just like, no, this is not the track, this is not the song, this is not the song. Like, and what the hell's going on? Like, have I set the bar too high? Am I just not enough of an artist, of an MC, that I can put this together? Or does it just need more time to marinate? Like, matter of fact, Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park, he talked about in some behind the scenes how long he put on the shelf his song "Where'd You Go" that featured on his first album, The Rising Tide. So people could look into that. Like, sometimes stuff sits on the shelf for a long time, but, like, as they say, like, you plant a seed and it just takes as long as it takes to grow. Like, you can't shout at something for it to grow faster if it's not meant to be, you know? So this song, I had it sitting in the works and in the archives for a long time. In 2012, I was already, I was married 3 years. My son was like 3 years old, and like my daughter was being born that year. So like my life was changing in all these kinds of ways, and it changed me as an artist. So part of that growth was in the works. Like, you can't write about being a father your first week of being a father. You can't tell what it's like to be a dad your first year as a dad. Like, stuff takes time to set in. Like, you take time to process. So all these changes that happened to me with my family and getting closer with my parents and my siblings in lots of different ways had to occur in my life for me to even be able to pen something like this. You feel me? Like, I had to go through these experiences for these words to be even be able to come out of me. So that's the story behind, like, the beat and the words is like just the track that sat on the shelf, because everything that I put to it was just like, that's not the track. Life happens, and then these words come out, and I'm like, that's the track. That's finally the track. So it was just strange how it came out.
It's crazy, because when I heard that track originally, like, I was like, man, that's some good writing. And like, there's another track comparable to that I'm like, one of my favorite tracks. It's a Scarface. I get the name.
Seen a man die.
No, that's a great song, but no, there's I can't
Hand of the
remember
dead
right.
body.
No, it was where he tells like a story, and he's
You're
like,
killing me, Smalls. I don't know.
yeah, no, but anyways, and those two. Now I feel you. Now I feel you by
Oh
Scarface.
yes. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Yes.
yeah,
He's on the album cover. Like there's this white
yeah,
background.
yeah, with
Okay.
the little
Okay.
hat and everything. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
That's the album.
So now I feel you, and that I'm like, and that inspired me.
Oh man, thank you.
But to go to what you were saying though, the inspiration is there, but the timing and experience isn't there. That not experience like, oh, I need to get more
Yeah.
skill, but like the actual experience of feeling that emotion. I can't force that. You're right, you can't.
Yeah.
It inspired me to write something like that, but I'm like, I don't. It's not here right now. You know what I mean? Like once it's there, it'll come out. But
Most definitely.
because one of those things, it touches your heart. You know, it's anybody and everybody can relate. That you don't have to listen to rap to like that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, because
so
it's talking about family. And anybody that has
exactly.
somebody that's close to them that they care about, whether it's husband and wife, father and mother, son, daughter, like everybody's got a mom and dad, man. Everybody's got somebody that if they lost, they'd be broken, they'd be shattered. They wouldn't know how
Exactly.
to move forward with that. It's like everybody's got people that you can't imagine your life without. And those are the people that, you know, I had in mind in this record. Like, because you can't fit everybody into a record, but I had to make sure all the cousins, all the friends, everything got a little shout in the chorus that didn't get an in-depth shout during the verses. But yeah, man, like this is really just a general message. Like if you got somebody you love that you're thinking about, like, yeah, that person needs to be that person needs to be told that they're important. You got to tell them what they've meant to you before it's too late. And that was my way of doing that, is putting that on this record. If anything happens to me, my family and I are square. They know how I felt about them. I put that on this record, and that's that.
Yeah, man. No, and I, give you mad props on that because, like I said,
thank you.
Time is short, man. You know, like I ain't got no kids, right? But I got a dog, and like 13 years, 16 years, it goes by in seconds. And like I got 3 more years at best with him, and I'm like, what just happened to the time? You know what I mean? So like, I can only imagine kids, and I know I got parents, you got parents, we all got parents, and like, yeah, there's just like we're getting older, we see them getting older, we're like, man, like fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, you gotta squash all those beefs. If you got somebody that is worth it, tell them you love them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You never know when, I mean, they could be healthy as shit and then get, dying, getting electrocuted by a thunderbolt. You just gotta tell them. You know what I mean? Like. So with that being said, we're going to move into the next one. And this next one, also a very awesome song. I like the topics that you talk about. I myself am on that, but I'm more ideological. So like, yeah, it's more, yeah, I would consider myself a like revolutionary communist rapper, mostly defined with like Dead Prez, Immortal Technique, Public Enemy. But like what you speak here on what you're speaking on this song, it's like, it falls into the same category, like there's a lot of things wrong in the society, man. There's things that need to change.
How much time you got, right?
Like, yeah. So, this is a little introduction to what you guys are going to see now, which is A Better Place. Give me a second here. Let me do this.
Yeah. A Better Place. This is a song I did for the Venus Project for Jacques Fresco and Roxanne Meadows. I was helping them out with their work. So using the power of hip hop,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And those words, man.
As long as we have arable land, factories, technical personnel, and other existing, we could build anything we wanted to build and fulfill most of our needs.
Money isn't what you want, and I'll prove it too. You really only want the things money do for you. You can't eat it, drink it, it don't keep you warm. Back it around, you can build a decent home. We don't need reform from any politicians who make plans illegal for you to rot in prison and think about the system that you got. It's no longer relevant, it's obsolete. We need a brand new vision for the way that we live. The world before get big, so it'll feel 120 degrees in the summer. We can put the guns down and scream peace if you wanna. I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. It's madhouse, I try, but I can't escape it. I don't blame anybody, it's the same disease. We're all plagued by money and insane with greed. At least we're trained to be. It's indoctrination. The elite bent on worldwide domination. We shouldn't have to go to war and die for our nation. While the only benefits go to corporations, we can do much better. You can read about it. Resource-based economy, the Venus Project. Perpetual death, where's the belief in logic? I dream about shouting peace. I'm out there, gonna bring you all with me if I ever get there. You can have abundance and access to healthcare. No more slave wages, it's got to go. Trying to feed our kids almost impossible. We all want the same things, we're just trying to live. You don't want the whole pie, just a slice of it. So I'ma strike a match and get right, you dig. And I wish that you all could feel as nice as this. Ask yourself, do you really want war? Ask yourself, do we really end poverty? Ask yourself, is it worth looking into? For the stress and hard times you've been through. Ask yourself, do you really want war? Ask yourself, do we really end poverty? Ask yourself, is it worth looking into a bright new future, no borders to into? And I'm not your enemy, just him. Yeah, let's have conversation, and shout, shout, shout. Let's have conversation, no screaming and shouting. Man, I'm not your enemy, just hear me out. And let's have conversation, no screaming and shout, shout, shout. Let's have conversation, no screaming and shout. I don't wanna tell you how to live, make up your own damn mind. You don't like how I feel, cool, homie, that's fine. We don't gotta kill each other over it though. Do you, I do me, we move forward and roll. That's what grown folks do, there is no utopia. We stop improving, the show is over. So you got an idea, man, I'm glad to listen. A whole lot more unity, that's what's missing. Ask yourself, do you really want war? Ask yourself, can we really end poverty? Ask yourself, is it worth looking into? For the stress and hard times you've been through. Ask yourself, do you really want war? Ask yourself, can we really end poverty? Ask yourself, is it worth looking into a bright new future, no borders to live to? Ask yourself, do you really want? Ask yourself again, ask yourself, is it worth looking into? For the stress and hard times you've been through. Ask yourself, do you want war? Ask yourself, do we really end poverty? Ask yourself, is it worth looking into? What's men do? And I'm bringing me, just hear me out, and let's have conversation. Shout, shout. Let's have conversation, no screaming and shouting. Man, I'm not your enemy, just hear me out. Let's have conversation, no screaming and shouting. Shout, shout. Let's have conversation, no screaming and shouting.
And that's what it's about. We have a tough job ahead, all of us. If you wish to know a world without war, poverty, unemployment, hunger, human suffering, you have to talk to other people. If you do nothing, I can assure you nothing will happen.
Yo, I appreciate the opportunity, man. I really appreciate you playing these joints, man. Thank you. Thanks again.
No, man, it's all good, man. You know, like you contribute to the community, you contribute to the culture, you know. So
I'm trying, brother. I'm trying.
And this goes for, hey, man, you do what you do, and you're doing it good, man. So you know, and that's the thing too. Like,
thank you.
You know, hip hop to me is not just making music. It's not just, you know, writing rhymes. It's how I am, how I walk, how I talk, how I look, how I am. You know, it's how even I drive. I drive like this, man. You know what I mean? Like
you sound like KRS-One. You sound like KRS-One. He says rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, man. You know, so you know, as long as you know you don't give up, because you know, from that's, I guess, your whole thing is don't give up, man. You know, we've been doing this for such a long time, even when it doesn't look like it's gonna go your way, or you're frustrated, or you're just, you know, you gotta keep pushing forward, man. And you know, that's the ultimate message, I guess, for just everything. But through hip hop, you know, so the youth can connect, so the world can connect, you know, and you know, just this is the main reason why we're doing this. So you thank me, but man, I'm thanking you, because for real, it's like we need guests. You know, you're the guest, man. So
I hear you. Yeah.
you know,
Same thing. Artists trying to promote their work need an audience. Like it's a give and take, you know?
No, man, no, you know, and it's cool, man. So, do you have any upcoming projects? Anything? Are you working on anything right now musically, or are you just
What
chilling
I'm
for the second?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. What I'm working on right now, two things. I'm working on trying to figure out the social media side of the brand Dark Knight Records. It's like, you know, that's it's the less fun side of this whole creation stuff is I'd rather be, you know, making music, doing stuff like that, which requires lots of time and it just requires timing too. Like it has to just be the right time. You can't just like, oh, I got 3 hours on a Sunday, I'm gonna write a verse. Like it doesn't necessarily happen like that. I mean, you can do that. I do recommend people stay sharp and sharpen the saw. Habit 7. But what I'm trying to figure out right now is these YouTube shorts. Like I recently posted and I'm continuing to post a lot of YouTube shorts because I don't know how hip people are on as far as like because I know rappers they rappers are good at rapping, producers are good at producing, and people who make songs and put out tracks are good at making songs and putting out tracks. But I don't know how many of us are actually keeping up with the things that we don't want to hear about. For example, like the market is changing. I looked at this one TikTok video, this guy who helps rap artists grow and maintain their careers, and what he's saying basically is things like the music video are somewhat obsolete and more so maintenance, like, you know, what did he call it, upkeep, general upkeep for the artist. They're not that big a deal anymore because that's not where the market is. Where people are watching are like short reels. So he was like, if people aren't getting with the times as far as like how they put out their music and where the audiences are, and they start using old formulas that are dated from like the early 2000s and the late 90s, their careers aren't going to go as far as people who maybe want to look into that side and know how to tap different markets. And same thing, I watched another young lady on TikTok. She was talking about music growth and how apparently, and this is according to the video, not according to me, according to the video, she says TikTok has 1 billion users worldwide. 1 billion, right? That's a lot of people. But check this, Instagram has 1.5 billion, right? YouTube has 2 billion. So what she was saying is people are grossly underestimating the power of YouTube's reach still because they think that TikTok is where it's at, right? And while it's TikTok is a market, it's a market where people can get noticed. Her take on this whole thing was like YouTube Shorts right now are something that if you're an artist and you're not getting on, you need to be asking yourself why you're not getting on and have a damn good answer, or you need to be getting on it. If you got music that's already out and you're not repurposing it and reformatting it and restructuring it for these YouTube shorts, you're missing out on a very, very potentially good market. So that's one of the things I'm doing with my stuff right now is I'm doing lots of maintenance on YouTube shorts and YouTube in general, and trying to figure out what the presentation for the product and what I've done so far, my work, is supposed to look like these days. So that's a big deal right there. That's a project to me. Music wise, honestly, right now, brother, I'm in study mode. I'm taking in stuff. I'm trying to listen to people smarter than me with more experience than me, and also like share experience and talk to people. That's why I really appreciate this opportunity talking with you, man, because really just bouncing ideas and hearing what you have to say, it really helps me grow as a person and an artist. So right now I'm in study mode before I get into writing. I've been finishing books like Jason Wilson's Battle Cry. I talked about that recently on some on some reels. And the reason I wanted to bring up his book Battle Cry, and if people don't know who Jason Wilson is, he recently put out a documentary on ESPN called The Cave of Adullam. I really recommend people watch that. I watched it with my family, with my wife and kids. We loved it. In that book, he talks about something called a shadow mission, right? And for guys like us, for rappers in our 30s and 40s, and like from the late 90s and 2000s, like shadow mission is that thing that we hold on to for too long that we need to abandon at some point because it's just not something we need to be doing, right? For example, like if my purpose for being in the studio was because I want to be a famous rap star with lots of sales, and I want to get signed to a major label, and I want to tour the world, and I want to do this, I'd be out of my goddamn mind. I'd be living a fantasy. That would be something that I would have to put to rest, because like you got a wife, you got 2 kids, you got stuff that you got to do with your life, and you actually care about it more than some stupid, fantasy tour around the world doing rap music career. Like that's a shadow mission. And anybody holding on to something that's really time to let go of is holding on to something that Jason Wilson refers to in that book that's called the shadow mission. And so with regard to never, because we talked earlier about not giving up, and yes, that's a big message that I put out in my music. Persistence is the first song on Law and Dark Nights. Persistence, but tempered with, you know, an awareness for what may or may not be a shadow mission. So like, guys, again, I don't know what it's like to be a girl, but like, guys, I know we like to hold on to stuff near and dear to us from like when we were coming up of age, that maybe we got to think about letting go of, and it hurts because it's like burning off dead wood, and you're killing off parts of you that literally want to live and don't want to die, and will fight tooth and nail to stay alive and stay a part of your life, that it takes a lot of effort to grow out of. So I think every time I'm in the studio, I try to scrutinize the hell out of myself, brother. Like, why am I in here? What purpose is this? Is this a message that I care about? Is this something that is important to me to talk about? So yeah, that's but anyway, but can I touch real quick on the song that just played? A Better Place, brother. That song was something that I did again for a man named Jacques Fresco, who founded an organization called the Venus Project, right? And just real quick on them, I did some volunteer work just trying to use this song to spread awareness about their website, their aims. And man, it was a crazy story because I got to go perform for him at his 100th birthday, man. It was one of those experiences that, just being this dumbass caveman, like, because I'm fucking, I got a high school diploma, bro, and I do little things here and there, but because somebody was feeling my message and my efforts on what they're trying to do, and I appreciated what they were trying to do, I got invited to participate in this stuff. So it's like, man, like, hip hop really is, it connects everything. It has the power to connect absolutely everything. I really do believe that.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Yes, it
yeah.
does.
So that song did this, and also another one of those plaques up there on the wall is for that song, For a Better Place.
Son,
Yeah,
damn,
yeah.
damn. You know,
I'm very proud of that one, man.
But yeah, no, all the songs that I played are amazing. The song that the Better Place, like, I really dig those words, because I like the message. See, I'm more of the militant, so I'm like, I come with my tanks, release all the gas, you know, that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
like, you know, you're coming with some knowledge, and that's something that, you know, people definitely need in this time and age. And you know, unfortunately, man, I'm gonna have to cut it, you know, because we're getting close to that time, man. But it is a pleasure having you on.
likewise,
And
likewise, man.
Anytime you want to come on, if you had other projects in the future that are associated with hip hop or not associated with hip hop, you just want to showcase your shit, you're more than welcome to come in and do your thing, man. You know, and we're gonna put your links up. If you want to just say right now what, you know, your links, that'd be, you know, good. But we're gonna put your links up regardless. So yeah.
Go to the homepage, darknightrecords.com. If you got a smartphone, if you had a laptop or a computer, DARKNIGHTRECORDS.com. Dark Knight Records is the one-stop shop towards all the social media, whether you like to access TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, email, whether you like to do email contact, or you just want to listen to the music. It features all the albums, all the instrumentals, all the mixtapes, which aren't available on Spotify or YouTube and things like that. Stuff that we did over, you know what the mixtape scene is like. You just borrow somebody else's beat, you just do a project because you feel like it. So darknightrecords.com is the one spot to go to. From there, you'll find what you like.
All right, cool, man, cool. No, and definitely you guys check him out. You know, he's an old school friend of mine. So, you know, and you know, in the future, man, if you need a collab or I need a collab, I hope we collab, man, because we're on the same mindset, man.
I appreciate that, but hey, I feel like this is the first collaboration.
You're right. Boom.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
All right,
And
my
thanks
man.
again, and thank you to everybody who listened, who watched. I really appreciate y'all taking your time. Support this channel, support my channel, and yeah, man.
There we go.
Peace and love.
All right, peace out, guys.
Thanks.